In this video, I will go over some of the basics of working with Python files. Essentially, we're going to read some text files from our computer directory, and we'll learn how to do writing, reading, and appending. We will also talk about processing the file, including, again, opening the file using the open function in Python. We will learn about 3 different modes of working with the file, including reading, writing, and appending, and also X, which is exclusive creation mode. And we will do this using an example of a text file that is located on the computer. I'm going to post also all of these text files later on for you. All right, so the first thing we want to do is let's learn how to read a file from our computer. So in order to read a file, I am going to help you pay attention to a couple of issues. First, we need to think about the pattern. Essentially, what's the syntax? Second, we're going to think about the file object. We also emphasize on the mode which we need to identify, and then we'll talk about where that file is located. So let me give you an example. So I can say a file object, FOB, is equal to open, and the first element of open is going to be the location where the text file, in this case text file, is located, where we want to work with it. And the second value that this will get is going to say what we're going to do with the file. Let's say I want to do multiple things with it. So let's say do something. And then what we can do is that we can close this file using a close method for working with files. All right. So there's one thing I want you to know is that if the file is in the same folder where there's let's say our Python file or Jupyter Notebook is being run, we can skip the pass file. So the pass file will not matter if the file exists in the same folder. I will have examples, so we will see how that would work. Let's say, imagine I want to open a file, and this is called myfile.txt, and the mode is going to be W, stand for writing. We could also use R for only reading when we want to make sure we're not modifying or damaging the file in any way. But if we want to write, we can say open myfile.txt, and we can say to this file we want to write this is some text that I want to write to this file, just as an example. So I'm just gonna put that text in here, and we can close this. And then what we do is that once that's done, I'm going to close the file. So if you have noticed, because I did not provide any pass, what's going to happen here is that the file is going to work and open here for writing, and this is going to be written into it, and then we're going to close it, and the file is going to store in the same location, same folder as this Jupyter Notebook. So let me go to my directory. If I am opening my directory here where the files are located, I will see that I have a file that says my file. Let's look for the file. So in this scale, myfile.txt, it looks like it does not exist. So I'm just going to create another copy and say, call this myfile.txt. So let me do that first. And if we open this file, we can just check the content of this. So this is essentially nothing. So we want to open it and write a statement to it and then close it. So I'm going to run this. In addition to that, another way to open the file in Python is we can use another syntax. We can say with open, and then we can just put the directory of the file and as well as the mode. And I'm gonna call this, give this a name. Let's just call it a file object. And then again, here we can do, we said we can do something, whatever we need to do with the file. And the difference is that here, no need to close the file. So once we're done, we don't need to explicitly close the file, essentially in the same way that we close it up here. All right, so that's also another way to do this. Let me just like run an example. For instance, we can say with, if you want to run an example for the first one, for this one, we can say, consider a variable to open the file, and we can set this, let's say, into reading. And once we're done with working with the file and reading, then we close the file in the end. So here we need to close it. With the second one, again, as what we can do is that we can, let's say, open the file, but here we don't need to specifically close it. I can say with open the file, you have to indent it after, call it f, and the content is equal to f read, and then print contents. For instance, in this example, this will read as a text file, and then the text file was saying, this is something I want to write to the file. For instance, imagine if we had an empty file stored in our computer in the same directory, because I didn't have a pass here. I could have said open the file here. Instead of R, I would write, and then you can use the function, the method called write, in order to add a statement. For instance, to say the same statement that is printed down there. So we could say print that into the file and then close it. Let me see what the error could be. It says readable, so we turn that into write. So once I do that, I can write the file here. And then if I'm like now running this, not this one, but like this last one, I should get the sentence that's written into the file. So reading and writing essentially can be identified based on the mode that you are assigning to the file. So more specifically, let's say we want to work with another text file and we want to write to it. The way I can do this is we can say I can look at my files that are stored on my computer. For instance, we have another file called courses.txt. So let's now try to open that file and then write into it. So we can say open. Here we can say open courses, and the mode is going to be set to writing. And then what we can do is that we can say FOB write, and in this file we can say, here we want to say add additional information. We want to add courses of data analytics concentration, and we want to write 2 different courses to it. I'm just going to copy paste from the syllabus. We have FOB writing, write the Python programming, and also FOB write data mining. And once that's done, we can say FOB close. And here, this structure doesn't need any indentation, so make sure we get rid of that. And now I can, let's say, just print done. Okay, again, remove the indentation. Let's run this code. If I'm looking at the file, Now we have a text file with the information that we had in mind, right? So we have a file with the courses, Python programming and data mining now written into the file. We could also, when we open the file, we can also, here I could say print the file object. Let's see what would be the output of that. When I'm trying to print, we will see that it won't print the information that's within the file, but more it's printing the information related to that file object. Now let's see how we can extract the information within the file that we have here. Now here, in order to write, in order to open the file and read the content, we can use simply a for loop. Now, the file is essentially an example of an object. A text file is an example of an object where we can iterate through the content. Let me just open this file, for instance. We can iterate through the content by paying attention to the line. So we can open the file and then go through the content. So here I can say, let me just open the file again. I can just say open. Let's just open it from here. And what I'm going to do, instead of writing, I'm going to say read. Now here we can write a simple for loop. We can say for line in FOB print line. This is an example of an iterator, and once that's done, let's say print done when you are you have gone through the whole content. And we can also close the file in the end. So here we see the output, data analytics, Python programming, and data mining, and then it's going to print done. And the reason there's a space between is that every time this code runs, there's going to be an added line, but also every time we read a file, when we are looking at the lines, what we don't see is that at the end of each of these, we can assume that there is a \n. So there's an extra character that's sending each of these sentences to the next line. So essentially, lines in Python do have a \n that we usually do not consider. All right, so that's something to have in mind.